What's happening, YouTube? This is Hayes Anderson, and this is a gear rundown of the past two videos that I uploaded. I want to start out here with the Scorp Pyramid. This is my main sequencer, and everything starts here. I have a number of tracks that I've already assigned, and I have another page of tracks as well. So I'm working with 2 pages of tracks. You may ask yourself, how do I know what goes where? Well, you just kind of pick something and go from there. So first off, this is the K2, and this is what it sounds like. So what's happening with the K2 is that I have it routed here, and it is going into this mini chaos pad. It's also going into the hypnosis for a little bit of reverb. So let's hear that. So that's a nice ping pong delay. I was also using a talk filter. Use that on the longer one, but I did not use that on the shorter jam. So next up, let's see, what else do we have here? We can talk about the SH01A, and it is the bass line, but right now I have it all tweaked out, and it's lasting a long time as well. But what I can do is a neat trick here with the Scorp Pyramid is I can change its program and get back to its original sound. So it's just a plain Jane bass, and it works really well. It's the only bass line for this jam. Next up would be the Cat, but we're going to kind of skip that for now. We'll get back to that one later. Next up is the DO5. And the DO5, I was originally using the JX03 for that slot, but I switched it over to the DO5 because I wanted more lush sounding pads. Let's see, moving on. Next up is the, let's see, this one is the TB03, which is way over there yonder. But what I have on the next page is another track that is loaded up with a couple of LFOs that are tied to MIDI CC for the TB03 to affect its delay time as well as its cutoff filter. And then next to it, I have the TT303. Now, it needs more manual control, so you will definitely see me over here messing around with the knobs, maybe hitting that button or that button. And right now, it is going over here through my Mr. Black Tape X2, which is a stereo delay, but I'm just using it for a regular mono delay right now. So I can tweak around with the sound and completely mess it up and then get back to right where I was. It's pretty slick. One of my favorite synthesizers, by the way. And then the two of these together act as a nice pair. And in the middle, we have the AY03. Which I can really tweak out with the knobs. Really fun little synthesizer. And that is in stereo because over here, hiding my Pepe here, we actually have 2 tracks pan hard left and hard right. So there's 2 outputs coming out of that synthesizer. When they're not quite stereo, they're 2 different oscillators, one for each output. It's a very, 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 very quirky little synthesizer. Okay, moving on. We have the Delta Sep. And I must confess that I'm just using a stock patch for this one, but I am routing it through this pedal. To start giving it some different character. And then moving on, we have finally the star of the show, which is the crave. And it is routed to this Zoom B1 on, and I have a bit crusher set up for it. Which I can play around with. So for this effect, I am using quite a number of effects here. First off, I always go into a noise gate just to make sure that everything's copacetic. But then I'm going into a filter. Then I'm going into a vibrato just to kind of give it some warble. That was the bit crusher. And then finally there's a stereo delay. And then we're just back to the plain Jane Crave sound. Moving on, we have the 2600, which, let me talk about that first. So everything's stopped right now. So the 2600 is over here at what I call my micro station. And as you can see, there's not room for anything else. What's really cool about this little setup is that I can have a lot of effects going on all the time whenever I want. I've got a area here where I can bring in mono signals, and then this comes into this G1X on, excuse me, and I can have any number of effects that I want to use with here, and then from here stereo out to this mixer. So right now the 2600 is just going stereo into this mixer. So out of this mixer we go into this chorus or flanger effect, which is stereo, into a stereo delay, finally into a stereo reverb, which comes back over to another sub mixer, which goes finally to my final mixer. So by itself right now the 2600 is just having a grand old time. But I do have a sequence for it. And mostly I was just, you know, going crazy with this thing. Maybe have some delay. But when I was done, I needed to make sure to turn the volume down because just stopping the sequence will not stop that synthesizer. And then finally, in the synthesizers, we have the cat. And there it goes. Okay, that was me trying to stop the cat. The cat doesn't normally behave badly like that, but every once in a while I can get stuck MIDI notes in this particular sequence that I was feeding into it. I probably should have doctored and fed to make sure that it wasn't going to have stuck MIDI notes, but it's kind of fun to go with and just see what happens and see if I can get it to unstick. So those two, the cat and the 2600, just basically provided a layer of chaos that I could go in and out of to kind of help with the melodic sequences. And that pretty much covers it for the synthesizer. So moving on, the next track over here, we have the drums. And starting with the ER1, which is again way over here. And with this, I might kind of mess around with the delay a little bit or something. So you get the point. Next is the kick, the Korg Volca kick, and it's just kind of plain Jane right now, unobtrusive. Of note, it is being routed to my oscilloscope just for a visual effect. The next we have the TT78, and that's way over here. Sometimes I put the TT606 here. I might put my other TT303 here. It's nice to have some flexibility and kind of swap things in and out for different sounds. So this is a CR78 clone. Maybe you can kind of hear it. It's good enough. But what's of interest is that this is going into the Strymon Deco. For neat delay effects or just sort of a chorusy flanger effect. Next up is the Roland TR-808. Just simple bass and drum, but it is routed to this mini Chaos pad for a ping pong delay. Then I can hold that if I need. Next is the TR-09. And I'm not using the bass drum so much for this one. I am on another track. But this particular track, I have set up a couple, select it first, a couple of steps. So I can also come back to toms if I want to. And I'm using this mini Chaos pad for the TR-09. Which is kind of a simple delay. And then this track, which I kind of dedicate these to bass drums. So instead of a bass drum, however, this one is a snare drum that's set up for 16 bars, and it has an LFO attached to MIDI CC channel that controls the snare drum's velocity. It's pretty cool. So after 8 bars, I just need to stop it. Now we have the S2400, which is behind me. And this is some Alesis SR16 samples. Now, this is actually coming all the way, the stereo output's coming all the way to this Operation Overlord stereo overdrive pedal. And I'm using it for reasons because my mixer, my Alesis mixer, drum mixer, which is way down here, well, it's a bit sick. And some of the preamps are not doing so well. So that Operation Overlord acts as a preamp for the S2400. And then finally, this wackadoo, which is back to the TR-09, and it's hi-hat, snare, toms, and bass. But what it is designed to do is to line up with the AY3. So these are two sequences that are in 13/8. And that pretty much covers it. Thanks for watching. I will see y'all next time. Oh, but wait, there is more. All of this pretty much comes up into this mixer. But this is something new that we also forgot real quick, the Polyon tracker. How silly of me. So the way that this works is it just plays. I don't have any MIDI actually going to it. MIDI clock is all that it's going to it. And then right now I just select a pattern that has the samples going. And I'm really just using this for sort of noise. This was kind of added as an afterthought, you know. It's best to sort of like start with something like this instead of adding as an afterthought. But still, it did add a nice little layer of noise. And I'm still trying to integrate this as best as I can into my setup, but I'm not able to really hit it with just MIDI notes yet, like I can the S2400. More investigation needed. But let's get down here to the bottom. This is my Scarlett Focusrite, which is the sound interface to my computer. But this is a new interface that I'm working with. Excuse me, a new piece of gear that I'm working with, and this is the platform stereo compressor. Is this a good idea? I don't know. We shall find out. This is an experiment. I need to do a lot of work to figure out how to get like the best levels. You may have noticed in these 2 jams that I've been working on that, you know, some things get quiet and they get louder and get quiet as the drums come in and out, and that is definitely the result of the compressor. But this is the new thing that I'm working with, and hey, thanks for watching once again, and we will see you next time.